Hello and welcome back to Polytoots. This is going to be the last part of this retopo, I promise. So we only have a couple of small pieces left, so if we just hide what we've done so far, get rid of this as well. Yeah, so we have the teeth, which I'm going to tackle last because this will tie in a bit with the unwrap, so we can save ourselves a little bit of time. But yeah, I'll do the teeth last. So yeah, it's just got the pipe, the tie, the hat, some eyes. It's gonna be quick. So let's just get right to it and let's make a new layer. We'll call it eyes. And I mean, you could if you wanted. Just actually, let me just hide everything else. Make sure symmetry's on. I mean, these aren't, you know, crazy important. You could just do everything the normal way. I hate it when that disappears. So you can just lay down some quads and whatnot, keep sort of expanding out or something. But I've had to do sort of little retopo jobs like this quite a lot, and there are some models that are provided, like these spheres. I'm just not a huge fan of them. They're a little bit dense, so I made my own just out of all quads, which I just made in 3ds Max, but it's incredibly easy to make. Where's it gone? There it is. And I suppose, I mean, I can provide this model in the description of the video. There's not too much point, but you know, might as well. So let's just put that in place. And the reason I'm going to start with this is that there's also something kind of sort of weird that happens. So let me just so let's apply this. And I mean, it's close enough that if we wanted to like snap these verts to the like the closest mesh, it would probably work. But when I deal with sort of imported stuff, most of the time I just kind of say no, like just leave it as is. And what this has done, because it's in a new layer, so it's created a new UV channel, basically, which is the same name, it's just with a lowercase d. And I've noticed something a bit kind of annoying about that. Like if I were to delete this now, so that UV channel is gone, which I can prove. Let's come out of orthographic. So if I were to cycle through the retopo stuff that we have, you see nothing's highlighting. Whereas if I go to default with the capital D, everything highlights because that's the channel that it's in. And ordinarily you can just say to delete the unused UV sets, but when I do that, that lowercase default channel still exists. It's pretty annoying, but so the way that you would get rid of that if you have it is let's just bring in this eye again, and it's defaulted to the same place. So let me just speed through this and I'll put the eye back in. Okay, yeah, so the eye is now in again. To get rid of this lowercase one, what you actually have to do is if you select all of the faces, which will be basically everything within this lowercase default channel, if you say move selected to and then move it to the uppercase one, and now if you were to actually press the delete unused UV sets, it will put it back so that there is now only one. So something to keep in mind. You don't really want to have, you know, too many sort of UV channels here, especially ones that have the exact same name. It's just kind of confusing, and we'll cover a bit more of that when it comes to doing the bakes. But yeah, for now, let's just call this eyes. Let's enable symmetry. I guess it's already on, so we'll just mirror that across. Wrong side, so invert mirror, mirror that across. That's the eyes done. So bada bing, bada boom. So next up, we will deal with the tie. And I'll be using strokes, I think, for the majority of this. And again, make sure symmetry's on. So let's just put down some points. Okay, something like that. The geometry is a little bit strange, so I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of goes crazy. We don't really need a lot of polygons here, so I'm just going to see what 4 would be like, so I'll just hit return. No, it seems to have worked okay. Got a couple of bits to sort of fix. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. So let's just fix it up a little bit. Let's try and switch it to parallel. Okay, that'll do. Yeah, so do the same one over here. And I think that's fine. And what we'll do for the front bit is we'll actually just use the sort of standard points and faces. Let's come back to tie. First, we're just going to weld these up. Okay, to tell a little lie, what I'll actually do, I think this is completely symmetrical, so I'll just put in some strokes just to kind of help it a bit. And the reason that I kind of want like a fair bit of loops in here is because this will eventually be like a cloth object, so it will move around and whatnot. Not this area here with the neck, that will be skinned to the body, but this sort of front bit with these sort of trail ends, those will be kind of freely moving around. Okay, that isn't working. This is supposed to be a quick video, but I don't think it will be. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it with what it's giving me there, and then just points and faces for the rest of it. Okay, so I'll probably leave it at that. I will leave this gap here. I don't think that's ever going to be seen, so it should be fine. And then just finish off this real quick. Okay, so with that done, let's go on to the pipe. And what I kind of wanted to show you real quickly is you can actually do a local symmetry. So if you remember, this pipe is just kind of placed up here in his mouth. It's rotated. So using sort of normal symmetry usually wouldn't work, but if you enable symmetry and choose local space, and you might need to reset out some points, but you'll get basically just like its own local symmetry, which is pretty handy. But yeah, so again, same, probably points and faces, strokes, maybe some quads if I need it. Oh yeah, it is worth noting sometimes with the strokes tool, symmetry does not work, and I think it's if it actually kind of overlaps itself. So what you can do is if I just disable symmetry for now, and we'll see, I have this interpolation issue again. Actually, that should be okay. So what I can do is let's try and actually draw this green line more along the center. Okay, so that should be good. And the reason that we want this line here is because we'll actually perform our own symmetry afterwards. I'll do this bit here real quick so that we don't have to let's go into orthographic actually. Oops. So now if we re-enable our symmetry, let's just hide the symmetry plane. If we would hit this button to make this whole layer symmetrical, it should hopefully, because these points are close enough to the center, it should be okay. Worst case scenario is we have to tidy up just a little bit. Okay, yeah, so it's done it, it's symmetrical, and we've definitely got some weird stuff that needs to be cleaned up. So let's just do that. Yeah, okay, so when you do that, I guess watch out for faces being created on the inside, and then the only other thing you have to do after that is just weld these things up, and you should be good to go. Yeah, we'll do the hat. And again, the same kind of rule as the pipe, you can use the local symmetry. So yeah, enable symmetry. Let's go on the hat layer. I prefer to kind of be on the layer that I'm actually working on, like the hat Vox tree, so hat retopo. I don't know if it makes a difference. I wonder if, you know, if I were to show symmetry. Yeah, okay, it probably does make a difference because it's using the symmetry of this layer, so yeah, fair enough. But it's something that I've always done, so I guess I was doing it correctly. So yeah, symmetry for that, and this one could be a bit little tricky, I guess. It's quite thin, so you might end up with some points on one side and like the wrong side that you want it on, I mean. So I'm probably just going to model all of this just with the manual sort of points and faces. You could like probably use strokes, but I kind of think at this point it's sort of asking for trouble. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of just do this the old-fashioned way, I suppose, or the new modern old-fashioned way. You know what I mean. Okay, so I have just noticed a slight issue. While this hat is mostly symmetrical, uh, it appears as though it's not quite symmetrical. But I wonder actually if it's symmetrical on the other side, so maybe the x-axis. Could be. Let's just press this button and see if everything breaks. Yeah, okay, so that's better. I know I kind of wasn't going crazy. I thought this object was symmetrical, it was just, it was on a different axis, so all good. I'll keep that there for now. I'll just continue with what I'm doing. Okay, now this is where it can get a bit fiddly. If you wanted to, like if this sort of view was kind of distracting, you can turn down the Z bias. And this isn't actually extruding the mesh or anything, it's just the kind of like the render layer. If you can imagine how it's sort of just ordered in a renderer. So it's not actually extruding the mesh. This one will extrude the mesh. But oops, let's put this back down and redo my placement. So yeah, this one is just a visual representation. So for this hat, I'm just going to bring it right down so that I kind of keep things as neat as possible. But yeah, I can't really, because with the points and faces tool, it needs to see like that other edge to connect. At least that's how it's usually always been. So it's not, it makes it a bit tricky to kind of place points like this when you need to see that other point. I mean, it looks like I can kind of get away with it, but yeah, not ideal. So I am just going to add in like a lip around the actual edge. If it would let me. I might have to use the extrude actually. But I think when it comes to doing the unwrap of this, we are probably going to run into issues because these kind of shapes, and if you do them like super low poly, you'll see when we come to do it, but 3D Coat with the cage system that it has, it really kind of struggles with this sort of stuff, which I mean is absolutely fair enough. It's not an easy shape to try and get right, but I'll explain more about that when we actually get to that stage, rather than just confusing you immediately. Yeah, so I'm just going to continue. I'll try to do a selection and extrude. If not, I'll just kind of model it the old-fashioned way. I'm just trying to create a lip basically around here. Yeah, okay, so that's working okay using the transform tool as the extrude tool. So every time you hit apply, for example, if I hit apply, it creates a new extrusion. I'll just undo that. It doesn't seem to like symmetrical points too much, so it's, you know, it's got a bit crazy there, and on that side as well. Not sure what's going on actually. Let's try and move this down a bit. So I'll keep it as that for now, and then I'll just come back to points and faces and just tap on these verts just to move them so that they basically get snapped to the mesh. We may want to add in just a little bit more, and unfortunately because these are triangles we can't easily at least create a loop around here, so we'd have to kind of do it this way. In fact, while I'm here I might as well. Although it's interesting that it isn't doing that symmetrically. I guess it's broken somehow. So let's try and do this. No, invert mirror. Okay. Got a slight issue over here. Just fix that up. And weird, but okay. Now it's not letting me place the mesh. Let's try symmetrical copy again, and then try and force a triangle in here, and that's, oh boy. I'll be back in a second. Okay, all fixed. Don't really know what was happening still, but done. For now at least. I strongly suspect we'll need to make some tweaks to this hat for the bake, but I mean, aside from the teeth, I'm forgetting something, which is very likely. We are very, very nearly done with this retopo. The last thing we'll do is, of course, the teeth. All of the teeth. Yeah, there's no real easy way around this. Let's just say, call it tooth. But this, I'm going to basically just model one of these, and that will basically be the end of the retopo, because to save ourselves some time, what will actually happen is, let me just actually hit the H key on this. So if I hit H, it will actually find this layer, and let me just remove, there we go. I just wanted to remove the one next to it. We're going to just model one of these, and then we're going to insert our UV seams, and then we're just going to copy it a bunch of times. So it's basically, it sort of takes care of the unwrap for us. a little bit, at least in theory. I haven't actually tested it, but it should work fine. For the actual geometry of these, it's going to be pretty simple. I mean, for starters, there's lots of them, so don't really want to have them sort of too high poly, because that would be like a massive pain, because it would just create thousands of triangles just for the teeth. So yeah, going to keep them low poly, and we will do the unwrap of one, and then just we'll end the video there, and then I'll be back hopefully very, very soon with the actual sort of unwrapping and the baking of the entire character. Okay, so that's the tooth, oopsie, basically done. The one thing to kind of keep in mind when you're doing like lots of these things that you need to sort of duplicate over and over again is definitely spend the time to just sort of make sure that everything's kind of welded. You're not going to get any kind of weird issues. For me, it doesn't matter too much because I'm just going to be copying these, but if you were modeling them one by one and you had to model like the exact same thing again, you're going to end up with a bit of a headache later on down the line, because there's no point in UVing all of these uniquely, so we'd be using the same unwrap for them. But if some of the mesh is slightly different, then 3DCoat isn't going to let you kind of copy and paste those UVs across. And if this doesn't make too much sense, it's fine. We will eventually cover that when we do the unwrapping tutorial. So for now, let's just go to mark seams, and let's get my radius down a little bit, and probably just chop them in two, but maybe for the sake of grouping them, I'll keep one of them open, so the unwrap will look like this. I'm pointing at the screen again. I don't know why I keep doing that. You can't see it, but if I were to move my cursor off, then you can't see. So yeah, over there in the UV preview. So that's what our tooth unwraps will look like. You could even be a little bit more conservative if you wanted to. In fact, yeah, I think I might do that. If we split them into two, then we can use the same UVs for the back and the front, which is, you know, thinking about it, that kind of makes sense because it's not a high detail area. So yeah, we will do that. But for now, that is the end of this retopo tutorial, unless I'm forgetting something. But yeah, so when it comes to the unwrap stuff, I'm just going to be copying the teeth across. I may have already kind of done that before I start recording, just because, I mean, it's just copying the whole thing like a bunch of times. No one wants to see that. But yeah, so that's retopo done. I've probably missed something out, but let me know if you have any questions, any comments. And once again, I would like to say thank you to everyone for helping me reach 500 subscribers. I mentioned it in my my last shader tutorial, but I think I have like two very different crowds watching these videos. There's the 3DCoat people, and then there's the shader people, and I don't imagine you're both watching the same videos, but maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But yeah, either way, thank you very much. It means a lot. If you like this sort of content, let me know. If you don't, let me know. But I will see you in the next one, where we will be unwrapping and trying to bake everything out.